Listen and subscribe to the Table of Truth on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Podcasts. Welcome, everybody, to Blerdlines. This is your man, Cam. With me, as always, is...
the other Cam, the last actually Negro, the Wokokaji, the most respected hater on the planet Earth and the galaxy.
As well as...
Hey, yo, this is Josh, a.k.a. the Dark Lord of the Caribbean Sith, known as Dark Coconut.
And always trying to keep us a little bit more villainy.
This is Lord Professor D of the House Morgoth, second of my name, speaker of the nerds, scourge of imbeciles, and breaker of pop culture and mediocre chains.
And we are here talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp. And what is it, Quantumania in the Quantumverse?
You know what it's called.
In the multiverse of the Jonathan Majors. It's I don't even know first of all, I'm like, why is there so many syllables? I don't understand that part. Second, what is going on? Anyways, so yes, we are here and we are talking about the latest Ant-Man movie that's came out, the latest entry from the MCU, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. This is the third Ant-Man film. We all watched it, and yeah.
Well, a little more context, which this is supposed to be the first of phase. Which number? I
believe this. Yes,
because I didn't want to say. I wanted to say 6, but then I was like, I'm probably wrong. Okay,
yes.
So
World Wakanda was the wrap up of Phase 4. Supposedly, this is supposed to be the beginning of Phase 5. We have introduced Kang the Conqueror as our big bad, played by Jonathan Majors, who was acting the hell out of a really shitty strip, and I salute him for that. Yeah, fellas, what's your how we doing there, guys?
Which one you want first? You want
let me give me
the hard way.
Everybody come in and we'll say one positive thing of the movie, and then we'll get to the realness.
No, because it's only one positive.
Josh, same thing.
Yeah, Josh, you start off because you're probably a little bit more optimistic about it.
Yeah. All right. So I'll say the only positive of the movie, of course, the man Jonathan Majors out here freaking acting Shakespearean in a Marvel movie. But I would say, from a aesthetics standpoint, I actually liked the design for Kang. I thought it was really dope. They did a pretty good job of translating this comic kind of weird design into like live action. It actually worked better than I thought it would. Jonathan Majors definitely was doing his thing. I think that part was dope. But like you can act really well off of a shitty strip and not a good movie.
Positives.
Sorry, positives. I liked a lot of the design aesthetics, like how they portrayed, the quantum realm. I thought that was dope. And then I always say, like, yeah, those are my two. I think Jonathan Majors did a freaking awesome job, and I think like the design of everything in the background and all that kind of stuff, like from an artist standpoint, was actually done really well. Production design. And then those are my two like positives. And then I don't know if anyone else is positives because maybe we can get to the real stuff.
Yeah, I do.
I'll give a positive.
Please.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
I'll give a positive. I enjoyed Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, and Jonathan Majors as doing what he was trying to do. I think the comedy aspect of Ant-Man still works. That levity, not taking itself too serious, that still worked for me.
Yeah, definitely. Josh?
Obviously Jonathan Majors. The production design was through the roof. It really, the visuals were very eye-popping, despite the fact that they were, I'm going to keep it positive. I'm not going to give the despites. I'll hold it until we go on the other end. But yeah, I would say Jonathan Majors, the production design, and since we are
we're leaving you a little bit.
Michelle,
yeah, we did. And then Cam, do you have any other positive?
I will say this: Kang in the comics looks goofy, and they did make his costume in the movies a little bit more cool looking. The costume designs were cool for Kang. The world, I don't want to say the world building, the world of the quantum realm looked cool. And also, I am not familiar with how it looked in the previous movies or in the deleted scene. So I was like, oh, this looks interesting. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, it was cool to see Othello playing in a Marvel movie as your big bad, because I thought Jonathan Majors did feel like a Shakespeare character playing this role. And the cool thing was he was vastly different from the character he played in Loki, He Who Remains. So it's like two different variants, and you get to see the difference. And I'll be spoiler alert, the other variants, there's one particular variant that I want to see when Loki season 2 comes out, that I want to check out and see how he plays this Kang variant. But yeah,
which one? You may as well just drop it.
The scientist, whatever
Victor
Timely.
Victor Timely.
Victor Timely is supposed to be in Loki season.
Yeah.
I like.
I'm shocked that they went there with that.
Yeah, same.
One other positive. The portrayal of the Council of Kangs at the end it definitely got me hyped for what comes next.
Yeah, and I heard about that. I unfortunately had lost patience, so I didn't see it, but I know that it happened, and it was good. You know, I think when showcasing Jonathan Majors was the right way to go, because he shows that he can go in different ranges and in his performance. Were we continuing on positives? Because I don't want to. I want to dive into what I was going to say about the script and why it was a struggle for Mr. Majors to actually pull that out.
Yeah, I think that's enough positives. Now we did a good solid 5 minutes. We did some good due diligence. All right,
we did a whole 5 minutes of positives, because the rest of it ain't gonna be that.
It will not.
So now we can get to the actual negatives. Let's break it up. We can break it up. We'll start with the script, since I think that'll be the bulk of our disdain. I'll go a little bit first. First of all, let's give a little background. This is the writer's first major film. This is his feature film debut. He was a writer on Rick and Morty. He has done some comics before, and the majority of his stuff was mostly live action stuff, Emmys, Academy Awards, that kind of stuff. This is going to be this was his very first feature film. That doesn't mean that he couldn't do it, but that's just the context of what we were starting from. That being said,
it showed.
It 100% showed. It was rough. Rough is the best way I can put it.
I'll start off, because there's a few things. Again, I came in this movie fresh, didn't watch the first two. So by doing that, I wanted to see if this movie could stand on its own. And I've come to the conclusion that if you don't follow the Marvel phases, you will be lost. And I was still kind of lost, you're right. But again, this is what Marvel has done, so it does pay to be familiar with the previous work and the connections all being made. But I was hoping that this movie could stand on its own, and you can be like, hey, I can recommend this movie for somebody that's not even seen it. That's how good it is. Unfortunately, it's not that. The title alone, I have issues with, and this goes into poor writing. It's called Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. There was no wasps. I don't understand what the part of the Wasp was. I didn't understand. I didn't know the daughter was super smart all of a sudden. Maybe I wasn't familiar with the other two movies, but I was like, when did she become a genius? And I guess the motivation between Michelle Pfeiffer's character, I was like, why she didn't explain this to him before? And I was like, okay, maybe it's like a PTSD thing. I'm trying to give her some cops and bill. I was like, if this was all familiar, because she did say, why you just didn't ask me? And her daughter was like, well, we've been trying to ask you. I was like, if it was so big, bad, and dangerous, you should have told us. You have an Avenger.
And that's one little small that contradiction right there, even in the dialogue, in parallel to the overarching narrative, it shows you why that writing was bad, even from the way, because why would she even say that? We're talking about scientists, geniuses, CEOs. You're not supposed to. You know that you didn't talk to them about it. You wouldn't talk to them about it. So of course they did this. This is the natural progression of that. I'm sorry, I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Well, and to build on what you just said, on what you guys just said, it just smacks of 80s movie writing. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not, well, why didn't you tell us? And then thing happens. And why didn't you tell us? And somebody pops up. And then why didn't you tell us? And then you go, well, we should get going. Like, all these things to distract from the fact that she did not tell these people, however many years it's been since she was in there. She did not tell these people, what is it, 5 years plus the year that Ant-Man came, was 6 years ago.
Well, this is the thing.
At a minimum, this all went down, and that there's this danger lurking in the quantum realm.
What is this thing?
Kind of important.
Where they lived through the blimp, Thanos, and all this, and they've experienced big bads. So if there's a big bad that is supposedly on the level of Thanos, you would want to tell an Avenger, like, hey,
if nobody else,
don't go in there.
But
I like, and then our friend, OG Table of Truth member Dwayne was like, when did the family turn into the Bionic Six?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Like, I really, I'm not gonna lie. If it wasn't for Jonathan Majors, I was really bored because at the end, I get it. You want to set it up and build up to Kang being this big baddie, but how does he destroy all the Avengers? But Ant-Man is the one that takes him down.
Yep,
exactly.
And that's the part that was like weird because you had this thing where it was kind of like, like you said, one, the daughter's genius out of nowhere after being like a punk kid for X amount of time, and then also, you don't really explain, like the same thing with Janet. She was in there for like what, 30 years, 40 years, something like that. Yeah. So again, PTSD, yes, of course. Okay, that's a good excuse. But like, if she just saw like the whole Thanos situation and all that, she could have been like, "Yo," like again, as our good friend D'Angelo says, one line of dialogue.
Avengers level threat, you tell an Avenger, even if it's a low level Avenger like Ant-Man.
I think therein lies, again, going back to the script and the way that things were set up. Act 1 was completely wasted because we don't get any kind of establishment of a base conflict between these individuals. Everything is hunky-dory. Everything is fine. Hope has stepped in. How does Cassie feel about Hope being her
basically
mom, I guess? And why hasn't Scott proposed to Hope if everything is going as well as all this is things are portrayed? So there's no initial setup of a conflict that allows Janet to come in and say, we might want to think about perhaps tell you guys what happened in lieu of what happened with Thanos and all the stuff we've been through. I think I should tell you exactly what went down in the quantum realm. I know I've said nothing until now, but now I need to tell you. Yes. Then you let Cassie reveal that she's been messing around, because now you've established stakes. You've established that, and it's not on a point where Janet,
or vice versa. Let me jump in real quick. Or you could have done vice versa. Cassie could have been screwing around the way that she was, and then she goes, "Wait, you did what? You sent a signal? Okay, you really shouldn't have done that because ... Either one of those would have worked. Either one of those would have worked.
Here's one more thing. What was Ant-Man's whole motivation for getting back? To have a relationship with his daughter. I did not see that throughout the whole film. There wasn't really no relationship of him trying to be a dad, because that
Yeah.
was the thing. He was like in the trailers, it fooled me saying, I want to reclaim, I can give you time back to reclaim with your daughter.
Right.
I never saw that.
Yes.
And we didn't know that he was talking to Janet and not to Scott, and so that makes it even worse, is because you're talking
even
to
the trailer producers peeped the way that they could make that work.
Yeah, because they saw they were only working with, probably that was the best material that those producers were working with to sell the film. And you know, the other thing is there's just too many gaps in that act. So by the end of Act 1, I was like, okay, this movie cannot make up for that, because what did we just see? Like we saw literally nothing for 20 minutes, nothing. And then all of a sudden she's sending signals to the quantum realm. Why? Who are you reaching out to?
I wholeheartedly agree with you. Act 1 was absolutely just a waste of celluloid.
It was a way. I don't understand. And this is why I'm saying I don't know what's going on with this is why when you guys praise Feige, I'm a little bit reluctant to go that route, because at the end of the day, he made some good decisions at the beginning, but now he's fully on board with this kind of let's churn this branded stuff out. Because how do you see a script like that unless the bosses above him are like, let's just go, this is it? But how do you see that script and not instantly be like, we have a problem?
Right.
I was also going to say too, this is the 31st Marvel film since the beginning of all this, which is wild. But I think that's that hits it on the nail, because that first act, like there was like, you know, they established the life before. Oh, okay, you know, Paul Rudd's chilling, he's doing his thing, da 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 da. His daughter's giving him the business because he's like kind of resting on his laurels and not like being a hero anymore. He's like, yo, man, I saved the universe a couple times. I done my due diligence. Like, I feel like I should be able to chill. But even that aspect of it didn't carry on to the rest of the film. No. Like you said, him trying to be a better dad, right? He's reading the book to his kid, the kids all like him, but his daughter doesn't like him. So like, okay, we have a little bit of conflict there. But before we can even dive into it, all of a sudden, hey, we're in the quantum realm now. Like, wait, what?
And even the conflict between Scott and his daughter was written in again, the way I've seen scripts. I saw scripts wrote in my second year of screenwriting school, which is, and I'm talking about the first draft, which is, okay, on the one hand, you have his daughter seemingly like she looks up to him, she loves him, the stuff that he did, and then this was established in the previous two films, his absence was never a problem for her. Now, all of a sudden, she is throwing it in his face every 100%. Chance she can get. Where does that come from?
Yeah. She turned into like all of a sudden like a punk, because like I think she turned into like a punk kid, and then it's funny because over the last say protester kid, in the last say 10, 15 years, when they have a white young female protagonist, they have this type of attitude, which is really weird. And it was like in Hunger Games, it was in Divergent, it was in Maze Runner. Basically, it was weird because it was like a pattern that they had the same type of attitude. It's kind of like a fuck you dad type of attitude, whether it was deserved or not. And you're right, they set up Cassie for two movies to be like, I idolize my dad. My dad did the best that he could. I respect him. And then all of a sudden, in 20 minutes, they're like, fuck you, dad.
Well, yeah, that was the confusing thing. Like, she wanted him to do more, but as a superhero, you know, use your powers for good. But using your powers for good takes away from the relationship of you being a dad to your daughter and reclaiming that time that you lost. So you can't have your cake and eat it both ways. That's the result of bad, like, motivation, character motivation. You know what I mean? Like, it's just bad writing. I'm like, what do you want? Do you want your dad to be your dad and be present in your life, or do you want him to go save the world and be this hero? Because if he's going to be a superhero, we understand, if you know, like Spider-Man, it's going to be a sacrifice.
It's a sacrifice. And he was the thing that they were apart for 6 years. She was gone, and he was, she didn't get ripped away, right?
He was stuck in the quantum realm. That's what it was.
He was stuck in the quantum realm. She grew up during that time.
Yep.
Yeah, I again, it's just one thing after the next, and so marching into the second act, I just knew by the time we got to Kang, it was just a mess. You know,
Yeah.
all of this referring to him as him, pronouns without.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I wish
We had a very long discussion about that. Yes,
Josh and I both agreed that we should probably have. It was too bad we couldn't have met up and went all together and played a drinking game. How many times they called Kang him before they actually said his name? And that was one of those things where, okay, exposition. You're saying to me how bad this guy is, but I have not seen it. And I still don't see it. Even if you show the flashback is cheap, because that's one moment where you're showing me him killing a bunch of random whoever and
spidery people,
whatever
creatures.
Okay, yes, he seems like a maniac, but at the same time, why is he so dangerous? What was the quantum realm like before Kang?
Yeah, and at the point where you have a situation where a character constantly is being evasive and referring to the main bad guy as him and he, at some point in the movie, you kind of think to yourself, "Will someone just snatch this woman by the shoulder and ask, who the hell are you talking about?"
Yeah. And the reason they don't is because we're being gimmicked. Because everybody knows that Kang is who we're talking about.
That was really bad. And really
now
gimmicky.
The producers and the Marvel heads have gotten us to this point where they can gimmick the mess out of us and tell us, "Oh, this is great. This is what you want." Yeah. Oh, you're gonna refer to him as him,
and I think
you know who he is.
It's disrespectful to your viewer. It really is.
And I think, and the one part that I liked the setup with him and Janet in the conversation and how they like work together and like that whole flashback thing. I thought that part was dope. But like you said, it's her touching the thing and then all of a sudden we find out he's bad, quote unquote bad. That just like you said, it cheapened it. And it could have actually been shown more better as opposed to being more exposition, whether he snapped the neck of some random person or like a freedom fighter or whatever it was. Like we could have shown that he's a badass, and like we don't see any of that. Where on the flip side, when we saw Thanos earlier, when he first introduced, he was whooping people's ass, and he showed that he was a badass.
Let me say this. You know where we felt the real imminent threat of Kang? Loki.
Yeah,
when Loki came back.
Absolutely.
He was like, yo.
He was shook.
That's the feeling when I get when I hear about how Kang should be a badass. I didn't get that feeling here in Ant-Man and the Wasp. The only feeling I got that part was in the trailer when he said, "Have I killed you before?" I'm like, oh,
yeah,
you know,
right. And that's honestly, a line. Hey, Cam, you can correct me if I'm wrong. That's a line straight from the books, is it not?
Yeah, from I think from Avengers Forever, and like it would even I would have even gone with the cheap ploy of showing flashback of Kang with broken shield, broken hammer,
with the trophy room.
Yeah, the trophy room.
Yeah.
Like that would have at least give us a little bit more. Like, yo, he's already done this before. He's killed a bunch of Avengers, and then blah blah blah, and he doesn't even remember Ant-Man because he's insignificant because he's
so.
Which was BS. He did know who Ant-Man was.
Real quick for the listeners, in the comics, there's a trophy there. Literally after he utters that line, asking I forget which Avenger, if I've killed you before. He runs into this dice like, it doesn't matter because I'm probably going to end up killing you again. And then he walks them through a trophy room, and the trophy room has Thor's hammer, the cracked shell, the cracked shell of Iron Man's helmet, a broken Captain America shield, and then you get the full view of the room, and it's like Spider-Man's mask and all this other stuff, and it's this huge hall that's a tribute to his victories over the entire Marvel universe. And the room is covered by the stretched out corpse of Mr. Fantastic as a banner across the roof of the room. And it's a huge room.
Oh, that's beautiful. But again, that is even in the comics showing the breath of danger. And if they did that scene after we saw him going ham on a bunch of random people, then that would have also given Janet the exact reason not to trust him. We know that she got linked to his neural path to see those images. She didn't say that she was able to understand the context of what she saw. She just reacted to it. So for all she know, that could have been just like he said. They were trying to attack him, like he was defending himself. And obviously, we know that it is a deeper problem, but that explanation was confusing. So who were the ones? Are you trying to stop your variants? Are they trying to stop you? What's happening now?
So this is the thing I've been getting from Kang. There's two things. He Who Remains and the original Kang kind of come off as the good guys in a sense because they're trying to stop the evil variant. Yes. Yeah. The second part is what the hell happened to his powers? This dude had he was like waving his hand and he was like,
he had telekinesis, psionic powers, and
how did that go?
None of it. He used none of it. And then the other thing is, it's the quantum realm. Once you get your machine back on, then that means that you are now once again the omnipotent master of space and time. If you can't take the empire, why not wouldn't your fail safe be okay? One-way ticket, boom, I'm out.
Yeah, exactly.
Then I can always redo this. I'm the master of time and space. This is nothing.
And I was thinking that as well with when it came with like with Thanos, like when he finally got all the stuff, he just bounced. And it's like so same thing with him. Like, he got his core. All right, I put it in my chair, and he could have just dipped out.
Cam, this is the thing I didn't understand it, especially in the end. Instead of chasing Scott, his core was right there. He could have just let Scott go back to his realm, put the core in the ship, and left.
Yeah,
pride got the better of him. He wanted to stomp Scott out, and I'm like, no, dude, you're supposed to be this guy. Look, I went ahead. I'm gonna say this. I went ahead and read about Kang, and this dude is super smart. That he outsmarted Reed Richards, who was filling in as Dr. Doom.
And his ancestor, Reed Richards, is his
great grandfather, I believe.
Yeah. So Kang ain't no fool. He's a master manipulator. So I didn't understand that motivation. Yes, no. I didn't understand that motivation of him like doing this foolish pride thing because he's above pride. I didn't get that.
No, it's what you call a terrible writer. And that's what it was. It wasn't Kane's fault. It was in on the paper, and that's where you were. Because again, and then also not just the writer, the all those who made the decision to put that out, which is to say that instead of it being like, okay, Kang doesn't need to be swatted down, defeated, because you have said that this is the overarching antagonist. This is the big bad. So I guarantee you, most people expected Kang to win, and at least not lose the way he does. Because then, how can you sell him as this mastermind when Thanos first encounters the Avengers? The reason Infinity War is so good is because what happens in the first few minutes of that film, he takes down the two characters who had been previously described as the megaton nukes of the Avengers, and he takes them down with only 2 stones, by the way. And so, boom! Now we
and then massacres the Hulk.
And then
hey, we should not talk about how they nerfed the Hulk.
Hey, listen,
that wasn't supposed to happen.
I'm in agreement with you, but it was what they established.
Well, honestly, if you have that fight should have been a little bit more. It should have took a little longer than it does,
and at least a little bit bigger. But I agree with that.
Thanos needs at least 3 to 4 stones to take down a certain variation of the Hulk.
Yes, agreed.
Especially that variation of Thanos who doesn't have all of his modded up power.
He hasn't used magic. He hasn't gotten any cybernetic modification.
No, he's just brute physical strength. That's it.
Yeah. I agree with the thing because like it goes back to a game where I'm like, say for instance, Kang quote unquote loses. They could have easily done an extra scene where it's like, oh, he comes back because he knows what's going to happen, right? So he can lose and Ant-Man can leave, and then all of a sudden, boom, he comes right back because he's time and space. Picks up the stuff that he needs, and then he comes back. And I thought with the ending of the film when Scott Lang was like, "Oh, did we win? I think we won." Blah 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 blah. I actually expected Kane to pop back up, like, "Yo, man, what's good? Just want to let you know you didn't win. I'll see you later," and then bounce. Like even that small part would have been cheapened, but it would have actually been like, "Hey, time and space, dude. You think you won at that particular time, but I'm literally so I can come back whenever I want and mess with you."
I don't think Kang is gone though. I mean, obviously,
he's not. Yeah, he's not.
No.
And I like that.
The way he can.
I like that tease only because it does put you in a broader perspective of who Kang is and the danger that he represents. You can't know when the person can control space and time if you've defeated them, because who's to say that you haven't just defeated them in this moment and in this time, which is
exactly.
And if he's the master of all time and space, then he probably saw this coming and has already created a contingency or multiple contingencies for exactly that moment that he knew this was going to happen. Because he even isn't there even a line? Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't there a line in the film where he says, "You view time as linear, I don't"?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
he does say that.
Right there. That's your out right there.
But they don't follow up on that in the film and show us that that's the case with Kang. We don't see him fully using his space-time powers. No. And we're told that that's because that his machinery doesn't work in the quantum realm. Well, that's a convenient excuse for not being able to, when the quantum realm is not necessarily... It's outside of space and time, but at the same time, if this person can figure out how to build a machine and manipulate time and space, I don't think he'll have a problem with figuring out the quantum verse at some point. So, just messy writing from top to bottom.
And then I think that's the other aspect of it too, where I'm like, yo, like the time and space aspect of it is the part that you guys are hyping on. We all hate time travel. We know what it is, but like, even the way the film ends of just sowing the seeds of doubt in Scott Lang, but not actually showing that aspect of it, again, goes back to what you said, that they've been doing a lot of it. They just do a lot of exposition without actually showing you anything. Like Scott could have easily got up, went to the bathroom, put some water on his face, looked into the mirror, and then Kang pops up like, "What's up, dude?" And then and again, saying like, "I could kill you right now, but I don't need to, but I'll see you later." And that part,
I'm going to remember this, and I'm going to see you later. Yeah,
a seed of dread, and a tease of aspect of it to give you a little bit more weight. And we talk about this all the time. The film sucked out all of the stakes out of any.
I was just about to say, perfect segue, because that's probably my biggest gripe is how the stakes have been sucked out in a number of scenes, but no worse than at the end. Like they're stuck in Kang has prevented them from going through the portal that they create to have everybody go back home without having to travel through the wormhole of the quantum of the different states of the quantum realm. And then Kang stops them, portal closes, beats the crap out of Scott again. Before the portal closes, the Wasp pops up, blasts him with a couple of stingers, okay, and they both take him down. Fine. Crappy as that was, fine. Portal's closed. All of a sudden, you see Cassie typing, and boom, portal's back open. Why did you not just leave them in? You can't see what Cam just did, but Cam did a thing.
No, but I think that's the thing where if this was our favorite show, Young Justice, Metreon would come in real quick and be like, "Yo, what's going on? Oh, let me pick a couple things up and pick this up real quick," and then deuces, I'm out. Because he knows it's time and space. He does not think linear. He's like, "Yo, this is all whatever," and if trying to Kang in that realm, that's exactly how they would show that. They would have been like, he gets defeated And then once everyone jumps back out, you just get a quiet room, and all of a sudden Kang shows up, picks up a couple trinkets, stretches a little bit, and then just bounces back up. And then again, how the audience knows that.
And I think a better ending would have been them being stuck in the quantum realm. Cam's ending of him popping back up somehow, being like, "Oh, you think you beat me? That's cute. So I'm gonna go now, but I'm gonna leave you stuck here, and I'm gonna make sure you're stuck here."
Which
and blows up the portal.
Well, the deleted scenes was them getting stranded in the quantum realm, but I don't know why they changed it.
That was stupid. I think it should have been Kang popping back up, or not even disappearing at all, and leaving them. They're like, you know what? I didn't really even need to do this. I built this empire across the last 30 years because literally there was nothing else to do but take over in the quantum realm. Yep, and that's what I do. So,
and I think if anything, Scott,
hold on. Now that I have a way out, I'm gonna leave, and my parting gift to you is to leave you stuck here like Janet left me. Deuces. And
I think that would have been great, and I think that would have worked way better than what we got.
Yes.
And either that, or even just Scott being trapped there.
Yeah.
Even if he just trapped Scott there. Because we know that this is the third Ant-Man film. We don't expect a fourth now after this.
Yeah, of course.
We do expect to see Scott continue on in the MCU. So him being trapped in the quantum realm would make sense. Moving forward.
Just one movie. You know what I mean? And then in a post-credit
Dynasty
in a post-credit scene, he pops back up in, I don't know, the end of the Marvels or something like that. And he comes back all panicked, like, dude, Kang the Conqueror, we got to do something. We got to assemble the Avengers. Something that would have linked everything much more in the way of stakes. He comes back and his suit is all tattered and he barely made it back. And there's wires and whatever. Like he had to jury rig something in order to allow his suit to allow him to travel back the long way.
And also, if something else that occurred to me, Kang could have, by way of breaking Scott, could have gone to any point in time, plucked any Cassie at any age, and brought her back to him, and murdered her at different ages and stages in her life, repeatedly, multiple times, and that would have made This is, I'm like, and you have an opportunity to make this guy he's the big bad of the.
I was about to say that is a supremely Kang thing to do.
But if Kang did that,
murder your child in front of you, for every variant that I find, I'm gonna grab him, bring him here, and I'm gonna off him.
Yeah, I'm gonna go and grab her at her 5th birthday party at that moment. When she's got the cone, and I'll bring her to you right in front of you, and then I will end her. Then I'll go and get the Sweet 16 version, and then I'll go and get the 30th version, the one that's pregnant with your grandchildren, and then
you will see it over and over and over until you bow.
Yeah. The cool thing about that is we saw that when they were locked up, and he was like, "I can murder her over and over and have you watch."
Exactly.
But then if he'd have done that, as motivation, it would have changed Scott's behavior, this happy-go-lucky. He might have turned into how Hawkeye turned into this vengeful Avenger. You know what I'm saying? And
but it would have made sense for Kang to do it. And let me tell you why. Because if he had it, and this, again, it's just the writing. You kill her when you say that, because you can kill her and be like, look, I killed her. But guess what? She doesn't have to stay dead. I can just go right back to that moment before I twitch my hand and get that Cassie and bring her here. Same difference.
Yeah.
And to you, it's the same difference. It ain't that to her.
And that would have gave some gravity, one, to the multiverse, because he'd be like, yo, I could go to any multiverse, grab the other Cassies. I'll grab like 10 of them right now. Boom, I just killed all of them in front of your Cassie, just to let you know that I can. So now, what are we talking about? Are you going to help me or not? And I think,
and guess what? She's not infinite, so she's running out. So what's it going to be?
Yeah,
and it would, like Cam said, it would have made
not to mention the fact
differently.
Yeah. Go ahead, Josh.
Not to mention that you have all these incursions that are happening. So the multiverse is actually collapsing in on it. So based on his description, the multiverse is collapsing in on itself. So not only am I taking out all these different versions of Cassies, but there are Cassies that are winking out the more time you take to decide what it is you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, show them the graph. So
many ways that you could have gone about that and proved it. Again, stakes. It would have upped the stakes immeasurably.
So it was a lazy effort in every aspect. And we talked about this because segue away from just the screenplay and all of its many problems is just certain characters. I mean, you guys are more Marvel than me, so I'm going to ask you this. What did you feel about MODOK? And his use of the secondary villain as the secondary villain.
Didn't care.
Okay. Yeah, I would say, you know what? I actually liked the way they got to MODOK. I think that was interesting. At least it gave it some type of a thread to get there. Mm-hmm. But the use of the character, the Disney-fied of a villain. Hey, let's give him some type of oh my God, I was so, what am I supposed to do? I got to do something. And now I'm going to do something good to redeem myself. Like that.
Yeah.
He has the Disney villain.
The redemption arc was whack.
In like 2 minutes time, he has the Disney villain crisis, the DSC. He gets hit with it. And as soon as he gets hit with it, he's all of a sudden stupid and he attacks Kang. Jeez.
Yeah. For some cheap laughs. And it was funny. Not to say it wasn't, but it was just cheap. And then especially for someone like a character like MODOK, who is a solid B-level villain. Like he does some pretty big stuff. He's not on your A-list, whatever, but he's something that's actually pretty interesting enough that they've done solid villain work with. It was kind of a cheap thing. Like it was. I almost would have wished they would have done what they did with the rest of the characters in there. A bunch of throwaway characters that had nothing to do with anything, and they just made them up. Oh, some random freedom fighter woman. Oh, black dude that can read minds. Oh, some jellyfish thingy. Like all the sub characters that were introduced that were quote unquote brand new. They were all just like meh. Like you didn't care about any of them. There's not much.
What was the reason for Bill Murray's character? Like
no reason at all. None whatsoever.
It was a Bill Murray cameo. That was all it was.
That's all it was.
And again, the more of these films that they make, the more people now have to admit that Martin Scorsese is right and was right. I'm not saying that he's right entirely, that he should chuck them from cinema, but as far as these movies being made like an amusement park, that's exactly what we're getting and what we've been getting for the last two phases.
Yo, Marvel is turning into the John Madden franchise, dude.
Ooh, yeah. I can see that. I could definitely, because I mean, I was more just struck by like, I think even like, I've seen parallels with Love and Thunder where like they went too slapsticky, where it's like, yo, we know, you guys can actually tell a good story. We know this. We've seen it. But like now it's almost like you're really lowering the bar as much as you can, throwing as much jokes as it, keep it like friendly and blah, blah, with a hint of a story, but not really. And it's like, dude, like we've been rocking with you for this long. The majority of people that are watching your films have watched, out of the 30 films, has probably watched at least 10. So you don't have to really insult our intelligence, or same with the multiverse type stuff. It was like, yo, people watch Rick and Morty. So we like people have an understanding of what a multiverse is. So you don't have to treat us like we're idiots. And I think a lot of times.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
And I was going to say on top of that was, when I was watching it, that was the thing that I was saying. I was like, oh, hey, look, it's resistance fighters fighting against the big bad. Oh, hey, there's the Empire. Here's the like, I'm sitting there seeing all these familiar tropes. And we didn't really need any of that. Like we had this interesting big bad that, like, to your point, like, if he did have his time traveling powers, and he just took like, again, maybe if you don't want to kill a bunch of kids, Cassie was in their 20s or something like that. Take a bunch of them and snap all their necks at the same time and be like, "No, dog, I'm not for the play." Like just to establish where we're at.
I agree. And one thing, this is slightly related to what you just said. It should be worth noting that incidentally, the writer of the movie did Rick and Morty and all this stuff, but Rick and Morty, the Rick Sanchez character is loosely based on mad scientist like Kang the Conqueror. Like That is one of the main influences of Rick and the Council of Ricks. The Council of Kangs came first, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure the Council of Kangs came first.
And I would say even with that, like the thing I was noticing, again, I was going back to like a lot of small stuff. Like again, D'Angelo's voice is in my head when he says one line of dialogue. I was even in the cutscene when they had the Council of Kangs, you see 3 variations of it. They don't mention each other by name. They don't say anything like that. It's interesting because they could have easily walked in and been like, "Yo, Crimson whatever," or "Hey, Ramatut," or "Hey, whatever." He who remains was killed. Now Kang has been killed. That's 2 out of our most powerful variants. We need to get together and get our shit together. And like, even you learned more about Kangs in Loki and him talking like that one scene where they talked about we all got together, we started fighting each other. When some of us died, some of us didn't. You learned more in that small scene in Loki than you ever learned in the actual Ant-Man movie. Where like they didn't say like all they said was like, "Yo, I got tossed out because I was the most radical," blah 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 blah. But he didn't say I got tossed out by my other variants. I'm the better one of the ones that are over here. Like they could have added that line of dialogue, but at least would have give you a little bit more level of gravity.
Yeah. I want maybe I should look at it like this: is the Ant-Man movie supposed to be the introduction and how we find out about Kang? Like, does it explain, or will Loki be the show that gives us more background? Because the first instance that we find about a Kang is in Loki, especially in the season. Right. That was the first introduction of Loki. I mean, excuse me, of Kang.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna say that I don't think Ant-Man is the proper. We're looking at Ant-Man as like, oh, this is the introduction to Kang. I'm like, no, I'm gonna look at Loki because that's where I was first introduced to.
Oh, absolutely.
No, I don't think it's. I think that might be a slightly the premise at which that comes. I think we more so should be looking at this as a continuation, one developing, one building toward the next. So Loki was the introduction, like you pointed out, to this character, to this person that exists in the Marvel universe that has created what we learned in Loki. He created the TVA. He obviously was the one that kidnapped Ravina. You know him, Google's character.
Renslayer.
Yeah, and obviously I'm not going to spoil it, but those two, Kang and her, have a history in the comics, a deep history.
Sure.
So I'm sure they're gonna follow up on that. I'm almost positive they are. I know Jonathan Majors is hoping they do, but
we'll talk offline about his.
But all seriousness, it's a building from one. It's supposed to be a narrative building block, like one scene A builds to scene B builds to scene C. Loki builds to Ant-Man, builds to Loki season 2, builds to whatever. Then boom, Kang Dynasty. So we're, I think what they were right to do what I thought they failed with Thanos, which is Thanos should have been developed over time in those other movies and appeared at least once or twice in a like in Guardians. I love the way he appeared in the first Guardians movie. I was like, boom, that's perfect. That's the perfect use of Thanos. Showing that he is the big bad that's running these other villains. like he's the one. And they did, and that was great. But then we get nothing from him except for at the end of Avengers Age of Ultron when he's like, fine, I'll do it myself. I was excited about it. I was like, okay, we're going to see in different cut mid-credit scenes, oh, he's gone after this stone and he's gotten this stone. But obviously their plan was to have his story play out in Infinity War with it being about him gathering the stones, and that worked out. But I think with Kang, they're trying to develop him as this big bad that is touching a lot of different aspects in multiple different ways, and you can't just do that by putting him in the last movie or Avengers movie or whatever. So I think the Kang version that we see in Kang Dynasty will be radically different than the one that we saw in Ant-Man, and that one will hopefully be the one that's more akin to the
I agree. I think that's the one thing I would say. Like, if the one thing that I liked about Loki, and from all the shows that I had, it was the better ones. But the best part about it was Loki was shook. Like, once he started to see the gravity of it, and I like that. Like, Jonathan Majors played He Who Remains, a way that he was like, look, I'm the better alternative. You think I'm bad? I'm just over here just trying to keep the peace. But if I go, it's all bad. And when that happens,
and he gives her choices, right? He tells her, he's like, yo, if you off me, I'm just letting you. You can either take over the TVA in my stead, and I'll just go exploring and doing whatever, and TVA can continue, or you off me and you unleash everybody else that's worse than me.
Yep,
your
choice.
I
like that. And I think that was.
And he was like, I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't care what happens, because at the end of the day, and so this is something I want to point out. I rewatched the episode the other day, and he points out, even if you kill me, I'll just end up right back here.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he gave her, this has all happened before and will happen again. Like, a version of that is what I took away from that. Yeah. And so, he was like, it doesn't really matter what you do.
Because he knows in all of the infinite probable choices that Nathaniel Richards, the one that became He Who Remains, will always make those same choices. So it doesn't matter. No matter what, he will always make those same choices that will always lead him there.
So now I say I'll go back into the other random characters they introduced, and it literally was random. Like, they were just a grab bag of stereotype type characters they just threw in there. It was just like, hey, let me get the buff chick that's the freedom fighter, and like, oh, random black guy that just reads minds. And so it's like,
it was broccoli head.
Oh, broccoli head, Jesus. It was just one of those things where I'm
awesome.
like,
stop it.
Hey, production design was really well done. That's the one thing I would say.
Broccoli head was dope. As the star of that movie.
Yeah, all the designs that they did for this was actually, I enjoyed it. They did some real. I'm curious for the art book, but again, when you go back to the story aspect of things, it was just like, Broccoli head is cool. Did he add to the story? No, he didn't. And even the quote unquote freedom fighters, they were there, but what did they do more than just like just be there? And then to Cam's credit, talking about the Wasp, like, she was kind of there, but she was more like, hey, what's going on? Hey, what's going on? Hey, mom, why didn't you tell us? Hey, what's going on?
I'd rather have seen Kang come in scorched earth to justify the threat level, because kill off Scott's daughter, trap them in the quantum realm as a revenge, go have a post-credit scene, mid-credit scene of him entering a realm and just doing some damage. And
even if he would have scorched the earth of in the quantum realm and just killed everybody there, like he finally got his powers back and he killed everybody there.
And here's my second question:
here's what I would have done. Act one, not even Act One. The prologue to the film would have been, everyday life is happening. The Avengers are out avenging or whatever. Kang pulls up and offs all of them. You don't even know what you're looking at. Except that you realize that Iron Man is dead and Captain America is no longer active combatant. So you make sure that those two are in it. People dressed up as, doesn't even have to be them. Doesn't have to be Downey Jr. and Chris Evans, but there is a variant of Captain America, a variant of Iron Man. Kang pulls up and offs all of them, one fell swoop, huge 5-minute battle sequence, because he's not just going to off them and nothing, and not take a couple of blows. And then, and as he's leaving, he prunes that time period and then bounces. Then you open up with the movie, and as he's leaving, then you can have him, something happens with his ship, like his time machine, his ship is damaged, his multiversal ship is damaged, and he lands in the quantum realm. And that's when you have him meet Janet. Then you can go off from there. So it establishes threat, it establishes how he landed in the quantum realm. It dovetails right into what they wrote for the movie.
Yeah.
And also,
to
I
me,
think
that's easy peasy.
to add to that, with Janet not knowing any of that, it creates what the Hitchcockian suspense, which what most people forget.
Mhm.
Suspense is not jump scares or eerie music. Suspense is when you give the audience more information than the protagonist has or the characters have.
Does that qualify as Chekhov's gun?
No, Chekhov's gun is when you say something's going to happen and then you later show it, or you establish something. Like, for example, so basically, Chekhov's gun would be, okay, you have a gun in this scene. At some point, someone's going to use that gun because you put it in the scene, so it's going to be used. That's what Chekhov's gun basically is.
Okay, all right. I see the difference.
So it'd be like, okay, in the, I don't know, I don't want to do it for Ant-Man 3 because it's such a terribly written film, but you see that a lot in stories where you're shown something. The Wall, for example, in Game of Thrones, and the constant talk about it holding strong and not being something that would prevent the White Walkers from entering the realm. That was kind of the Chekhov's gun. So eventually you expected something to happen at the Wall, in which the Wall would come down at the mercy of the White Walkers. Because obviously
all right, I see the difference.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question real quick? Who are the Avengers now, and where the fuck were they at throughout this whole movie? Not that it was important, but like there was no reference of an Avengers anywhere in that world.
In which world?
Ant-Man. Oh, in Ant-Man's world. Like, because
so
there's no Avengers.
Unofficially retired, right, and scattered to boot, right? So there's no official team yet. Newly established Avengers team.
Scott still believes he's an Avenger.
Yeah, of course. And I think that was like the slapstick part of it, right? Like he's still an Avenger, quote unquote. But you're right. There was no like again. This goes back to D'Angelo says it again. One line of dialogue where like it literally could have been as he's walking down that street. He was like, "Yo, I just got back from a meeting. It was bop 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 bop. The Avengers are still around, but we were all doing our own thing, and that establishes that the Avengers are around." As of right now,
or he could have just been like when his daughter started getting on him about being an Avenger. He could have been like, "I'm barely an Avenger anymore. There's not even the headquarters. It's in the Atlantic Ocean. What are you talking about?"
Right.
The fact that Thanos destroyed it. So the Avengers is not really even a thing right now.
Well, they're setting us up for Riri, Ironheart, and Miss Marvel, and all these new characters, which I don't care.
Well, I think to go one step further, you could even it's one of two things. Either you do like D'Angelo was saying, like you do realize that Avengers headquarters, like Avengers compound, has been destroyed. Like it doesn't exist anymore. Like we're kind of done. We're kind of done for a moment, or we're on hiatus or something like that. Or you could have gone the other route, which is whichever heroes are still active, you have, a brief moment where they're off a little side mission that they just complete at the beginning of the movie. And then they split off together. Like, all right, guys, Injustice.
And they did that with Guardians too, as well. We're like, right at the beginning of it, you saw all the Guardians with Thor. They like, hey, this is what we've been doing so far. There's some threats. Right. We're going this way. You're going that way. Good stuff. They could have had Banner drop off Ant-Man in San Francisco or some shit like that. Like something very simple.
There's tons of ways that you could have. There's tons of ways that you could have gone with that, but I think Justice League, the animated series, does it best. Where time has passed from last episode to the current one, and in the opening episode, they're dealing with whatever threat, and now you see them coalesce as a team. They're practically talking shop while they're stopping a thing from happening. Batman and Superman are like, hey, don't forget, you have that date with Lois today. Oh, man, today's the 5th? Oh, yeah, thanks, dude. Like, I almost forgot. Punches bad guy.
Yeah, because it comes down to that very human experience. If you infuse that into the characters, then you have you have something a little bit more. And I just thought about, why was it that Cassie immediately turns on her machine and boom, Kang is able to pull them? Was he waiting there the whole time? And so then here's another thing.
Waiting for 30 years.
Why not have Kang send SOSs and them pick up the SOS, and then that leads to her wanting to build something, and then that leads to Janet being like, "Oh no, let's have a conversation." And
in the movie, they
but
actually
now Kang has
established
all that he needs.
Yeah, but they established that was MODOK that was the one that received the message and sent them out. And that there was like he said that like a really like offhand comment, which it's made again silly.
Oh, you know what? You're right. He did say that, and this because
it was so offhand that it's not weird that you
exactly. And it's, again, you don't need MODOK there at all. Like you could easily just took him out, threw in some random henchman, blah blah blah, yada yada yada. And I think again, it goes back to just not really establishing like what is this like. If this whole vehicle was to show that Kang is a badass, they failed miserably.
Oh yeah.
And props to Jonathan Majors for taking what he did have and turning it into something like you said, like Cam said, it was Othello in a Marvel movie.
The one thing I think he did, the strength of his performance was he showed the potential menace that Kang can be if he's written in a smart way that develops him and makes sense for the rest of the world. He was sinister. He was menacing. He had a calm about him that lured you in, like with Janet. And it could be deceptive. And even when he was found out, he wasn't like trying to hide it from her. He was just like, yo, I got a greater mission. It's like he is the typical mad scientist genius that does not have any scruples about the work that he's doing. He has none. Mm-hmm. And if it means murdering an entire timeline to achieve his next experiment, then that's what he'll do.
And I think that's the thing where, like, again, it was for props to Majors of bringing that aspect of it. Because I think there was the part where she finds out that he's basically, quote unquote, the villain. He didn't flinch. He just chilled. He was like, look.
He was like, well, yeah.
I mean, you said you want to leave, so come with me. I'll bring you back to your daughter, and you good. So what we doing?
What was the line he would say? Who is Kang? What do you need? Who I need to be? I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was a great moment, and again, those are the moments that made the film strong.
Yeah, and I think there were a couple of things that you could tell Jonathan Majors was infusing into that character. There was just tons of menace, man. Like, that's the word that keeps coming to mind. And I think, just a little bit of, that dude from around the way. When I said it to OG Table of Truth member Dwayne, he threw up a gif of Debo, but it was just the unbeatable that dude from around the way who just was bad for bad's sake. He didn't have any motivation except to just cause chaos and just be that dude to just infuse fear into everyone whose path he crossed.
Well, the thing about Kang did have motivation. He just knew his variants.
He did, yes. But I'm saying, but you can tell that it was some of it was just, I'm doing this because I can.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing where it's like, I like that, he was, again, his motivation was like, my variants are worse than me in different ways. And I like that aspect of it. And we've been talking about this before. Disney has a villain problem, right? They always nerf them. They give them souls or whatever dumb shit. They're not chaos for just chaos reasons. We're not getting a Joker-like character, a Nolan Joker in the MCU. A Nolan Joker is pure chaos. Like, that's his motivation. That's all it is. But every villain that gets into this the Disney Marvel has to always have some type of a core, feel bad, blah blah blah. And it's like, if for Kang to do that,
doing bad thing for a good reason.
Exactly. Where it's like, even with Thanos, like, I actually like sociopath Thanos. Thanos in the comics is, I'm in love with death. I'm trying to win her favor, so I'm
And
gonna
that
do
is all.
wild shit. That's all I want to do. And
he's a
and Death,
psychopath.
Yes.
The one in the films was a sociopath. Comic Thanos
Exactly.
was a straight psychopath.
Yes. And he gets curved, and in the comics, it's a continuing theme. He gets curved by Death every time. Like there's one of my favorites is when Death.
Back.
Yep, and Death actually chooses Deadpool, and he's like, "This dude, out of what I've murdered trillions of people, and you choose this dude?" And Death just like shrugs and then walks with Deadpool.
Wait, is
that to him just to mess with him, right? Because
just to mess with him.
That was the whole thing. And Thanos wins was like, he's just like, you did all this. I don't care. Like,
does not care at all.
I'm Death. Like, it's
yep.
Does it wait? But is it the wedding bride version of Death?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
It hurts. It's a twist of the knife, but that's the theme that I like about the
that's
comics.
Great.
Is Thanos is trying to win the love that he's never going to get, and he does all these things, and he still doesn't do it, and he still keeps going back. He dies, he comes back, he still tries, he goes crazy,
which is hilarious because
and he still tries, he still loses.
And I guess
at the end of Thanos wins, I love how younger Thanos was like, "Screw this, I'm not chasing her anymore. If this is what it takes, if this is what it takes to win your affections, I gotta go. I'll find another woman."
When you put that into villainy, it kind of makes sense metaphorically. Thanos is as a godlike creature figure. Death doesn't come easy for an individual like that, So even when you think about it as a sort of metaphoric thing, it works completely. But getting back to the film for a moment and with Kang, therein lies where we had the problem with the villain is that not only does he not exude he exudes the menace, but you're not showing him being menacing. And I know this is Ant-Man's film, but that doesn't mean he needs to win. Like win is a broad kind of definition. Like, to me, since Cassie was all on top of Scott the whole time and riding him for no reason given in the narrative, but if you wanted to keep with that, take Scott away. So now she understands the sacrifice that comes with that life, with chasing, trying to do battle with these quote unquote supervillains, these individuals who don't have the same moral or ethic code that their superhero counterparts has. That would have made up for some of the crap that we had to put up with, because then you see, okay, no matter what they did, they couldn't beat this dude. And it's gonna take more than just an Ant-Man and the genius of Hank Pym and Janice Van Dyne and Hope Van Dyne. It's gonna take more than just them. It's gonna take the Avengers. But we didn't get that. We saw that he could be stymied by Ant-Man. And I don't mean to say that as in Ant-Man is such a joke, but at the same time, Ant-Man is positioned as the joke of the Avengers, and we can't get around that. Even next to, he's even made the butt of the joke for Spider-Man in favor of Spider-Man. So at the end of the day, that cannot stand. This cannot defeat the quote unquote big bad. How do we take him serious as a threat after this?
And I agree with that, because that was the thing that I like. Like, again, we go back to one line of dialogue where, like, you're right when he said, I've killed so many Avengers, I don't even remember you. And like, again, not showing that aspect of that was a misstep, because it goes back to, like you said, weak writing, where like there was ample opportunity for them to actually come in and show that, show not tell that Kang is a menace. And so they skipped over it every single time for like, subplots of like, him and his daughter, sort of, kind of, not really. Hey, Janet's over here, blah, 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 blah. So it was just one of those things where it's like many opportunities for them to not go this route, and they ended up doing it. And that goes back to lazy writing. All right. So to wrap it up, how are we feeling? The next movie is Guardians of the Galaxy. We've already, that's a whole nother conversation. I think we'll table that for the next episode from our reactions to the trailers. But how are we feeling in general now that we've seen this iteration of Kang, and what do we think? What do we think going forward? I think that's the, like, now that we've seen Kang, he's been introduced, quote unquote, as the big bad. Where do we go from here?
I will say when Josh eventually sees these movies, he's gonna give me an honest opinion of if I need to spend money or wait on Disney Plus.
Facts, big facts. Josh,
I think we're gonna see the acting range of Jonathan Majors in full mass. I think that hopefully the writers will figure out how to infuse stakes into these things and not just rely on the big bad as villain, as antagonist, being the one to sort of push the hero narrative, into a corner, like it did in Ant-Man. Like, it just, it kind of just, it really didn't. It pushed it into a corner it didn't need to be in because of the themes that they try to keep carrying over from the other films. And D'Angelo put it perfectly. He's the joke of the Avengers. He's the court jester after a fashion. Not to say that he isn't significant or doesn't have a role to play, but his role to play is clearly comic relief.
But exactly, because Rocket Raccoon literally tapped him on the head and said, "Do you want to go to space, little doggy? I'll take you to space. I'll take you to space."
Forgot about that. That was dope.
This is what I'm saying. So I think it was an odd choice to debut the character in Ant-Man, but all right, fine, he's here. And I think going forward, I think we're going to see, hopefully, a little bit more in the way of stakes, a little bit more in the way of a threat, a little bit more in the way of, weight to not only the character, but what his emergence, the different Kangs, what their emergence will mean for the Marvel universe. And I think the post-credit scene with Loki, seeing him as Victor Timely, that probably is the beginning of that. But the only place to be fair, the only place that threat was fleshed out was in Loki. And it was in, the last half of that episode where they encounter He Who Remains. And you got way more explanation in a half an hour show than you did in a 2-hour Ant-Man movie, with, like somebody else pointed out earlier. So, I'm a little concerned, but, I think they'll pull it out in the end. I think it'll dovetail the way it's supposed to. Hopefully, they figure out what they need to figure out so that everything dovetails the way it needs to in Kang Dynasty. They've done it before. I just hope they can do it again.
And Angelo?
You cried. That's not a good sign.
I would say, not a good sign. Going back to that point about him and Loki, we saw the consequences of his activities throughout the Loki series, and the stakes that they raised. After all, again, we learned that he plucked. Say her name again. The character's Rowena. Is it Rowena? Rowena Ravenclaw.
Renslayer.
Yeah, Renslayer. Yeah. I'm thinking of the Harry Potter witch. So Renslayer. So Judge Renslayer, we learned that he had plucked, we don't know why, but for whatever reason, he plucked her from her job as a school principal and put her in charge of the TVA. So his activities throughout that series, even though we don't see him until the very end, are felt. We feel the stakes, right. We feel what he did and what it cost a lot of people, even the female Loki. He ruined her life. So we got that. But as far as to answer your question about going forward and about what I feel about the Guardians. This film in the string of the previous 3 or 4 films has confirmed something in me that I hoped wouldn't be, which is Marvel is on a cruise control that is going to be hard. They're on a path that's going to be hard for it's going to be hard for them to step out. Josh is more optimistic about them supposedly getting it right. I have no expectations for them anymore. They are in the same level as any other film or anything else. Their 20 years of whatever means nothing to me anymore, because these last few films have shown nothing but pure laziness and a utter disrespect for the people who have spent that same amount of time investing in following these stories. Now all of a sudden we're getting these less than subpar stories that just happen to still look good and have the right casting, but they are just as badly told stories as some of the DC films that people tear apart all the time. So going forward, I don't think the Guardians are going to be any better. I will hope that I'm pleasantly surprised if I happen to see it, but I'm at the point where Marvel has lost pretty much most of its credibility with me, and so now it's going to be on them to rebuild it. I'm not giving them any kind of inch, nothing. Like when you ask, you'll see when you ask me what I graded this film.
Yeah, and I think that's that. I was gonna say it from same as well, where like, you know, I've been reading these stories since I was 5, 6, something like that. And so, you know, here I am, 40 plus year old, now seeing everything on the live screen and on the big screen, and seeing fumble, especially these last. I would say, yeah, this past phase has been a big fumble, from the TV shows to the movies and all that. They have a couple bright spots, but in general, they lost the part that was kind of cool about the first 2 phases. Telling a good story. It goes back to really basics. And they've now gotten to the point where they've drank their own Kool-Aid, where they're like, we could do anything. And I'm like, not really. And you're really showing that.
Some Oscar nominations, and we've broken the box office 20 times over. And it's like, okay, yeah, these are things to be proud of, but that doesn't mean that everything, you're not King Midas. Everything you touching is not gold. So we need some effort and some legit, because for me, movie tickets are too expensive to be fucking around with all with this crap.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
I went today. I actually watched today, and it was about, I think after, taxes and whatnot, it was like about $20. And this is non-matinee. I live in New York City, that kind of stuff. When I was in the burbs, I can get the $5 Tuesday special or whatever. But you're right. At this point, we're at a level now where we're like, what are we doing here? You've done it. You've given us 30 plus films, and we'll be conservative and say 1/3 were great films, like fun to watch, entertaining, all that. There's a third that are like, okay, cool, these are fine. And now we're getting to a good point where the third are just not good in terms of bad writing or hokey writing, really shaky stories. We're there because we like
unwatchable. Yeah. Because honestly, I tried to rewatch Thor and I could not. I've tried to rewatch. I haven't tried to rewatch Wakanda Forever. I am going to try to rewatch that. I don't see myself ever trying to rewatch this. Doctor Strange, I rewatched once, and then after that, I was like, I can't redo this. I can't. That's a different space than where I was with Marvel previously. I mean, I could rewatch several films of their films over and over and not get tired. But not anymore.
No, you're right. You're 100% right. I rewatched Ragnarok a couple times. I've rewatched Winter Soldier a couple times, Civil War a couple times, and but yeah, I think now, and then that was the other thing I took away from the film too, is they were really bringing the bar down low to what they were catering to. And I was sitting next to a couple kids in the left, adults to the right, and the kids, I was kind of gauging their reactions, and it was actually kind of cool. At least they were engaged and they were into it, and they were like, they knew who was there. They were kind of picking pieces out. So I was like, okay, cool. That at least that aspect of it is still there, which I think is dope. But you're right, like they're starting to, and this now gives a little bit more leeway to Gunn going over to DC. That's what Gunn said. Gunn was like, look, we now have 30 films of Marvel to not do. So we are a little bit more fresh where we can just start from where we want to, and that gives us carte blanche to just try to start something different. Now, will he be able to pull it off? Who knows?
He has his opening. That's the key component here.
Yep.
He has his opening.
He also
the timing could not have been better.
What was that, Jan?
I was saying he also has less formulaic restrictions on what he can allow his filmmakers and the writers and the people to do with these characters. They don't have to be all one way, the way that Marvel stuff is. They can be different and not just with the. I wish they would just call it DC multiverse instead of, but Elseworlds, Elseworlds, with the Batman trilogy that Matt Reeves is doing, it's going to be brilliant because you have for the first time, a Batman franchise that's focused on the noir, hard-nosed, gumshoe detective aspect of Batman, which allows you to tell that story. Then you can have the regular DCE, which is going to be brave and bold, more focused on his family.
And honestly, and that's a better way to go about it, because the one thing I would say in the comic books from Marvel versus DC is DC did a really good job of letting people play in their sandbox and not letting that affect the main thing. So it's like, hey, I got this really good idea for Batman. He does this crazy thing, blah 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 blah. They're like, dope. Here's a little section. Go ham, but it doesn't affect our main joint. And you have as much fun as you want.
Earth 32 or
exactly.
Earth 72. That's why I was explaining to someone the other day. I was like, DC's multiverse has always been more comprehensive than Marvel's, because whenever Marvel does a multiversal thing in the comics, it's always to try to redo their canon, to try to do things and make it all across the board. Whereas DC, the Batman Who Laughs, that's Earth something 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 that has nothing to do with Earth 1 or the Prime Earth or whatever.
And
DC fans understand it, and that's why I said. The thing that the Snyder version of that missed out on is the fact that DC has such a great comprehensive understanding of how their multiverse works. And now Gunn understands that, and you're seeing it. Again, we're going to have more than one Batman, and who knows, Cavill may return as Superman because DC has that apparatus already built in, and you can do it and it makes sense. Whereas Marvel had 3 different Peters in one movie calling it the multiverse, and every version of Doctor Strange looked like the actor Benedict Cumberbatch. So how do you explain that? That's cutting against your mythology. If in all the other multiverses, you can potentially have a Peter Parker that looks like this guy and then looks like that guy, and then in this one, but in every multiverse, all the Stephen Stranges look like him.
A slight variation, and I think that's the thing where another podcast, the guy was kind of saying the same thing. It was like, when you do add in a multiverse, there really is no rules. Like, you can literally just, someone dies, you can just pull them in and put them somewhere else. They had in the what if situation when they had the what if the zombie joint, and in the end of the whole thing, Black Widow's jumps into a certain multiverse that Black Widow had died. And so, like, now that Black Widow's from another multiverse hops into it, so you really, at the end of the day, there's really is no stakes. And we've always talked about this as a continuous theme through all of our pods. Anytime we talk about Marvel movies, is the stakes. And because there is no stakes, this is the reason why we're getting to that level of fatigue. Where, like, now I actually feel the fatigue. 10 movies ago, I was like, yo, I'm still in. Now I'm like, oh man, we got no way of just telling a good story.
I mean, to add to that. Endgame, for example, I like Endgame. It's a good movie, but I don't like Endgame as a part of a continuous story because it undid everything that had happened in the previous film that actually mattered.
Yeah,
with the exception of Black Widow, and that was the one thing that stuck.
Yeah,
but beyond that, you negated. So that's the reason why in Endgame, Thanos is no longer threatening. He doesn't feel.
So hold on. So is that to suggest that you think that that the half of the universe that died should have stayed dead?
Whoa, you're asking me that. Before, but I'm asking you want me to, you just want me to say that out loud on the
I really do.
You obviously
really do.
My answer to that. And I really do. I will indulge you because I'm feeling in a very good mood. So I will say this, people. Yes, half of the Marvel universe should have stayed dead.
Yeah. And honestly,
my guy.
I would say at the very least, they should have left Gamora dead, because at least that would have at least added a little bit more gravity to it. Like they killed Black Widow, cool. They killed Gamora, oh shit, that was actually a big deal. They didn't need to bring her another version of her back because it just cheapened the Thanos killing. And like back to what you said, now they've undone everything that was heavy, because that was the one thing when we were working at Marvel and Infinity War came out, I was explaining to my bosses, I'm like, yo, you guys just gave Black America a superhero, and then you killed him in the next film. And I was like, and it was funny because like I never thought about that until I started to talk to other people that don't read the comics at all, and they were like, "Yo, they just killed Black Panther." Of course, he's not dead, but people that don't ask, but there was real stakes, and then all of a sudden in Infinity War they bring it all back. Now again, doesn't cheapen that moment. We all thought the moment was dope, and all the circles come through, and everybody comes out. That was dope. But you're right, it gave a level of like cheapenness where it's just like, yo, Infinity War was real fucking stakes. Like we didn't know who was gonna make it and who didn't. Like Peter Parker, like I was like, oh shit, they fucking killed Spider-Man. Like I was actually shocked.
And if anything, they overdid it with the Avengers B team and underdid it with the main folks.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
all of them survived.
100%.
They were 100%. The story. They were what the franchise was built around.
Yep.
So if you had off a few of them, and then left a few of them, so they stepped into the 100%. Role that they left out, then you could have worked away with bringing some of them back and leaving them dead. But you overdo it. You overdid it, and you killed all the ones. So now you got to bring half of them back because you don't have no franchise after that.
Yep, exactly. Right. And I think that it would have been better if they would have killed, murked off a Thor or murked off I actually like Thor's arc of being depressed and all that, but like. They should have cut out Tony, or they should have, cut out Cap or something like that. And like you're right, these little aspects of like from that main core, if they would have cut like 3 of them, that would have actually been better. But you're right. I think at the end of the day, Marvel's still at the same spot that we always talk about. They've nerfed their villains. They have no stakes, and now they're all playing with our intelligence now, where they're lowering the lower bar so down, like with the slapsticky and stuff. And it's like again, Rick and Morty. Mad people watch Rick and Morty. They understand the multiverse. So you don't have to explain that shit to us. So now just do a good story within the multiverse and we all get it. But at the risk of like beating the dead horse, we'll end it there. And but hopefully you guys like what we were talking about. We just ran it for about 50 minutes about how bad it was. D wants to put in one word right before I sign it off. Go ahead, D.
I would be remiss if I did not say out loud on this podcast what I gave this film, and because we've graded other Marvel films.
You're right.
Right.
Everybody drop their grades. D, your start. You're gonna go first. Go ahead.
Okay. So I will go first because I probably graded it the worst, other than Cam, because he's okay. Initially, I gave it a 4.5 out of 10, but then I thought back on it, and the screenplay offended me so much that I knocked that half a point off. So this is the first Marvel film that I have solidly given a 4 out of 10. Those 4 points are all for Jonathan Majors. I couldn't give it 5 because then that would look like it was split down. Nah, that 4 is for Jonathan Majors. that's pretty much it. 4 out of 10 for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I think that's the first Marvel film I've gone that low
on. Go ahead, Josh.
Same reasoning, though not as harsh. I gave it a 6 out of 10, and all 6 of those are for Jonathan Major. He propped up this movie heavy. I like the production design. So yeah, I guess all 6 aren't for Jonathan Major. I like the production design, although one of the big flaws that I subtracted for is the fact that this is the first time that I've seen a movie filmed in the void where people weren't reacting to their environment, and sort of playing with the idea that they're in the space. Yeah. There was definitely, like you tell Michelle Pfeiffer, for example, her reactions were not natural. Not that I've seen, having seen Michelle Pfeiffer 30-year acting career at this point, it didn't seem like she was reacting to, that's happening over there. There's this huge landscape over there. And there were a couple of them that didn't. There were a couple of scenes where every act could probably pluck out one scene where most of the primary actors did not react to the void naturally. Jonathan Major did everything perfect. Like I couldn't have asked for more from him in this film. So I'm not even talking about him, but all the other players definitely acted as though they hadn't been in the void before and were still acting like they were in a small sound stage. Little things here and there that you could pick up. Overall, I don't think it deserves more than a 6 out of 10, and that's being generous, and that's being wildly generous, in my opinion.
I will. I confess, I'm not coming to this decision lightly. I will. I'll give it a 5 out of 10, and that means that Captain Marvel is actually better than this film.
Wow.
You know what? I had to laugh at that because all of you been following our podcast, I know how much Cam hates Captain Marvel, so that just made me laugh.
I'm remiss because the script is so bad and the story is so all over the place. I gave it 4 for Jonathan Majors. I gave it an extra 1 for the production design because the production design is really fucking dope. Like legit, all the aliens and stuff, the storyboarding, the freaking the concept design of it. I freaking love Kang's like whole armor and his whole Jang, super dope. But like, at the end, I was just like, oh, Captain Marvel's better than this. This is so bad. I'm gonna have to watch Captain Marvel again. In my next final word, I'm gonna come back and tell you why I think this, but that's where I'm at. Cam, come in with the heat so we can wrap this up.
Give it what it deserves, Cam.
Give it what it deserves. We're generous over here.
This movie was a hot pack of ass. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. Yeah, I rank it up there with Captain Marvel, the Black Widow movie. And the reason, there's multiple reasons, and it's unfair to this movie, but it is what it is because one, I paid good money to see this, which D has explicitly put out there. Like Marvel, to me, is turning into the John Madden franchises because there's no competition. They're not put in a position to create and write better stories that are engaging, like in their first 2 phases. Second of all, I was bored. Like I didn't care too much, and there were so many things left. I don't want to say in question, but they didn't make sense. Like I said. The main character whole motivation was to recapture his relationship with his daughter, and I felt that was missing. The title is misleading. The trailer is misleading, but I mean, it is a trailer, which is cool. But in this aspect, I think it kind of just threw me off. There's just things in this story that just didn't. It rubbed me the wrong way, and like I just was uninterested. I was very bored. And credit to Jonathan Majors for doing the most he could with the script. And my 3 points is all to him. It's a fun movie for folks that don't care. It's not as invested. And I'm not as invested in Marvel because, again, we've seen 31 movies, give or take a few. And I'm a little jaded in that aspect. If I came in this fresh, like, oh, this is my 5th Marvel movie, maybe I'd be a little bit more optimistic about my score. But the fact is that I've seen enough to know this is not quality. It's not like a terrible movie. It's just in the hierarchy and the pantheon of Marvel films, this ain't one.
That's a great point. I think it would have worked if it were not an MCU film. It would have been just another run-of-the-mill superhero versus a villain, and it would have been fine. But because of all those other things, that's a great point.
Yeah, it's connected to a bigger scope, and it's got to be harshly graded in that fashion. Again, if you're not us and coming from the outside, or you have some, I don't know, you have to be a certain type of movie viewer to appreciate this movie a little bit more, in my opinion. But we're invested in the Marvel franchise so deep, we have to look at it in a critical lens, and that's why I give it a 3.
Yeah,
3.5.
We are the initiated.
Yeah.
So. No, it's true though. But I think again, like I've been reading these stories since I was 5, or basically since I could read, and so now here we are seeing what we got. You're like, yo, man, you've taken us up to the mountaintops, and I'm curious to see how you're gonna get back, because I just don't know where we're like. This past arc hasn't been too great, and maybe we're a little bit too spoiled. Maybe we do need competition, like you said. We're at the Madden franchise where there's no freaking NFL 2K to keep Madden actually working on making better games. But Marvel's in that space, so hopefully Gunn can come in and give them a run for their money, because they definitely need it. They need competition right now at this point, because they legit just picking dudes off from a bus stop to write movies now and give them multi-million-dollar things, and
literally
that ain't it. That ain't it.
Literally, they just it's like if that's the case, then they should be like, okay, send us your best spec scripts writers all over the world, and we'll 100%. Take the best one, because that's 100%. Literally what it was like. 100%. That's what they did with this.
Dog, if they ever do that.
A script submitted to a writing contest, and not a very good one at that, and got in, and the only reason it won is because they are married to an executive who knows somebody who knew somebody. Facts. Because that script was the worst that Marvel has ever produced.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we're gonna leave from there. We'll roll the music, roll the credits.
One last note.
Go ahead, Paul.
This pod has probably torpedoed any ambitions that we ever had of working with Marvel ever again.
Probably.
That's good, though.
You know what?
Good.
We all have to make our sacrifices.
Exactly. My line has been drawn, and then next time Cam gets called, hey, you want to work on, Howard the Duck? Yo, fellas, I gotta go.
I want you on that podcast. Mm-hmm. No, that was my variant. No. From another universe. I love you guys. I love everything you've done.
That was Cam with the K.
What are you talking about?
Exactly. That's Cam with the K. But yeah, if you've rocked with this far, you know what it is. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Peace.
Later.